The Beastie Boys are actually quite litigious. They will come after you. So just everyone hum sabotage as we're reading this, and that way we don't get in trouble with the Beastie Boys. There was this report out, 31% of employees are actively sabotaging company AI efforts and initiatives. Let's think about this. Communicators claim they're not good at math. I call BS on that. So, but we're gonna trim this down. This is a third of your employee base. A third are actively sabotaging AI efforts and initiatives. Not ignoring, not lukewarm to, sabotaging these efforts, which I find that such a fascinating word. They're not resisting AI. They're sabotaging AI. Jenny, like, where do you think this comes from? Or is this just a sexy word to use?
Well, so what are they doing to be sabotaging it? That's, I suppose, that I don't think the article goes into that level of detail, but like, are they just unplugging it, or like, what are they doing? I think that's like, how do you sabotage? I have no idea how they're doing that. But this is the story of any tech. So when we were talking about this before we were recording, I was like, I'm going to go and have a look and see what happened when email came in, right? And it was not, I don't think there was sabotage. I don't think it was quite that bad.
Do you want me to tell you what happened when email came in, Jenny? Because I was alive then. You don't have to just go read about it.
I was also alive, but I was not at work. So I was like, what happened at work? And it said like people didn't understand why they would waste time typing when they could just pick up the phone, or they didn't see the value in it. It was, people were very against it. For me, it's any tech change, and I've done so many in organisations. I've had people crying when we've changed email providers. I've had all sorts. It's a significant change. And the challenge, I think, with AI is people don't really know what it's going to be able to do to help us. So they're just a bit scared. Whereas something like email was very clear, this is what it's for. Whereas I think kind of the possibilities of AI is what makes it quite daunting. And therefore, I can't even look at that because it's so massive. So I'm not going to do it, is what I kind of think's going on. But the word sabotage I find is so interesting because I have got images of people just going around and I know that's not how AI works, but it's just like, what are they doing?
Well, it's an interesting perspective because, to your point, there's always been any type of change. There's going to be resistance. This is clear. This is not just resistance. And so then I'm wondering, like, is it about sort of that early narrative about AI being like, almost like it's coming for your job. It's going to eliminate these things that you do. And there's always been elements of technology and progress that it's the paradox out there is like, as technology gets better, as processes get better, there's always been this fear of like, oh no, that's going away. But sometimes it just creates more opportunities. So I think it's this narrative that got built early on around AI replacing instead of AI augmenting. Whereas email did replace a lot of things.
It did.
Like there were people who typed memos.
Yeah.
Typed newsletters, all of these things that happened, and now all of a sudden email. Now, again, I can remember when you had to build a business case at your work as to why they should give you an email address. It wasn't just something that was just handed out willy-nilly. It was like you had to explain why, because they then had to manage it because data costs a lot of money then and servers cost a lot. I mean, all those costs have come down. Now I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to build a business case as to why I shouldn't have an email address or why I don't want an email address. So I think I attribute it to this narrative of AI being a threat instead of it being this, how can it help us? What can it help us do? Where can it actually help us grow and learn? Instead of it being, it's coming for my job.
Yeah. And you've just reminded me actually, when you were saying there were people that lost their jobs when email came in, I just remember talking to my nan, my grandmother, the other week, and she used to be a courier for British Airways. So she would get on planes with documents and then take them to other countries and then pick up documents and get on planes. And that was her job, was going and doing that, which I mean, she's 96 now, so she obviously doesn't do it anymore. And that job just would never exist today, really, because you don't need to do that. I think you're right. I think the fear is part of it. But I also think we have a duty to almost embrace that fear and learn. And I think if we just run away from it, that's not particularly helpful. I also do think that, I mean, I was very fortunate to have some time with a guy called Ronsley Vaz recently, who took me through a load of AI stuff and how to use it for my business and what to do. And that was hugely helpful because it was very specific for me and has allowed me to make a lot of changes. But I think prior to that, I'd been to loads of events and conferences and seen loads of presentations, and none of that made anything any clearer to me about what you could do with it. It's like people just jumped on this bandwagon and want to talk about it, but no one's going, this is the prompt I gave it. This is then what happened. Then it did. No one's breaking it down necessarily into like that, which I think is what a lot of people need in order to understand how to use it. But I think people sabotaging probably says more about your culture than anything else.
That's probably true. There's some other stat that I read that it was around like 98% of people are using AI. They don't know
Well, yeah.
that they are. Like if you watch Netflix and it's serving
Yeah.
up shows for you, there's not someone on the back end thinking, Jenny really liked this one show, or Jenny stopped this one show and then put a thumbs down. Well, let's actually take that out. No. So we're using it just because it's not being called out. And I think I wonder if that's an area that companies are going to get into, is not saying this is AI driven, not saying this is AI. It's more just sort of happening in front of you without you having to manage it or worry about it.
And I think there is this, it's been made this sort of massive thing, but you're right. We've actually been using it as a tool for a long time. Even if you think about using Siri on your phone to do, like, that's been around for a long time.
People using Grammarly.
There's loads. And I think it's morphed into this big, horrible, scary thing. But I also don't know. It's interesting you said 98% of people are using it, but we don't realise we're using it. Whereas I think for organisations, I think it's really low in terms of how many people are actually using it, because it's like we don't know how to use it, and it's a huge change in terms of your organizational operation, all of it. Like there's a lot in there to think about.
And this I will say from a leadership standpoint, I'm seeing, and this is my knee-jerk reaction to it. It seems like about half of organizations out there's no policy whatsoever.
No.
It's the Wild West around AI. And so there's people like me who would be like, sweet, let's go. And other people are like, wait, there's no guardrails. Like, I might get in trouble for this. I could get fired if I don't know. There's no one saying what can happen or not happen. So there's that side of the world. Then the other side is it's banned.
Yeah.
No one can touch it. We're watching every keystroke you do. And if you type in Chat GPT, you're fired. As we know, there's a middle ground there. Like, people want guidance. They don't want to lose their job because they're using it. But also, if your company is not providing education and they're just flat out banning it, and your employees are falling behind, or they're using shadow AI, which means they're doing it on their phone off the side of their desk, and then taking screenshots or typing what they're seeing. So they are, even if you've banned it, they're still using it. And so it's that sweet spot in the middle of understanding it's here, it's going to happen. So not that you have to be like full on embrace it, we're an AI company, but give your employees some simple guidance. Here are the tools you need to use. Here's why it's safe. Here, please do not upload company financial data unless it's the enterprise. Like, give people some guidelines, or else people are going to fall into one of those two buckets.
But then as soon as you started talking about kind of governance and guidelines, all I could think about was, but people don't do that for internet platforms and digital workplace. Like, there's so many of those that get launched without that stuff. So actually,
none that I ever worked on.
Well, not everyone's as good as you, are they?
Well, let's end the show right there, Jenny.